All right, we've got Alex on the podcast. Alex, first time you've been on. Welcome to the Pop Culture Experience.
Thank you for having me. I've been very keen to experience the Pop Culture Experience, but I've got to say I'm very nervous, Dan, because I feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm not a pop culture expert. I'm not really an expert on anything. As my mum has always said, apart from the fact that I have a face for radio, she's always saying that I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So I have strong opinions on specific things based on small amounts of information, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping that like you, that my ability to talk underwater, ability to put a whale to sleep whilst underwater will kick in. But I'm putting it out there to start with. Forgive me if this is a total piece of shit. Okay?
Mate, I think the important thing to remember here is I too jumped into this podcast with the presentation of knowledge and of expertise, and then quickly rebranded to, it's the Pop Culture Experience now. No longer the report. I don't know enough to report on. Let's just, you know what? Let's just throw some pop culture shit out there. And, some people might come on that, want to know about certain things. Some people might come on that know more than I do about certain things. So the reality is, mate, it's the blind leading the blind on this podcast. So, and that's the way I like it. That's the way I like it. I want to, before we get too far in though, let's touch on your podcast and why you're on. I've just had quite an experience. Okay, now I'm hot off the heels of being a guest on your podcast. Now, give us a little plug for your podcast.
Yeah, the My Next Guest Is Not podcast, formerly known as the My Next Guest Is Not Conan O'Brien podcast, where I attempt to work... Copyright, exactly. Conan, I love you. I'm looking down the barrel of the camera here. Conan, I love you. I know you wouldn't do anything to jeopardize my potential career in podcasting, but I'm sure the higher-ups and the legal team might have something to say about it. If you could put in a good word for me, that'd be great, because the whole point of the podcast is that I want to work my way up the celebrity interview ranks to get to you, okay? To interview you, to become your friend, maybe a confidant, maybe you could give me a job. I don't know. The job market's tough out there. COVID's got us scared. COVID's got us running. Hashtag Rona 2020, my Lord. But yes, the entire point of the podcast is I get to interview people who I'm actually very, very inspired by, and I love their work ethic and I admire what they do. Hence why I thought, Dan, like you had to be on the podcast, and we were just talking, like literally. No, but we were just talking off mic, off. Is it off air? Because we're technically not on the airwaves. I don't know. Off air chat. We were talking about the record which we had done, and I stupidly messed up something on my end of the recording, and so like we've got a full recording. It's just going to take a lot of editing to get, but I'm very keen for people to hear the chat, because as your listeners will know, you're very good at the talky thing. And so I want my listeners, however few of them, to be able to experience that. But enough about me. We're on your podcast. I'm not here to take over the show, as much as I may try, but we take control, take the reins, Dan. I'm ready. Give me the Pop Culture Experience, my friend.
Are you done?
Yep.
I asked for a spiel about the podcast and I get a friggin' essay. What was that? My goodness. And you know what I love? You know what I loved? That you spoke to Conan through my show, which you are implying he listens to. It couldn't be further from the truth. And if he does, hey Conan, how are you?
Mate, I have good word that Conan loves.
Yes, of course.
Loves, loves the podcast, my friend.
Well, who doesn't love diving into a pop culture experience, mate? Now, let's dive in to one for you, all right? Now, talk to me. I threw the idea out to you. I said, look, come on the podcast. We'll just talk some shit about a bit of pop culture. And you're like, well, as you went on your little spiel about before, I'm a master of none. I'm a master of none. But I do dabble in a little bit of wrestling. And I was like, okay, well, there's a great jumping in point, because I haven't had nearly enough chance to talk about wrestling. Talk to me about your fandom of wrestling, Alex.
Here's the thing. Okay. Firstly, I put the little asterisk, the caveat that I'm no expert. I know there are people.
Why do you keep talking yourself down?
It's the art of like lowering expectations and then over delivering, my friend. Okay, you'll learn about it.
Of course.
So, again, like I'm no like fully fledged expert on wrestling here. I really like, I love it. It's my guilty pleasure. When I tell people, oh, I love the WWE or I love a bit of AEW, I love professional wrestling, they're like, oh, it's fake. No, it's all fake. It's not real. Why don't you watch the UFC if you like fighting? I'm like, well, but hang on. In the UFC, like the UFC is great, but in the UFC, you're not going to get like a German suplex off the top of like a 12-foot cage. You're just not going to see it. You know, and you're not going to see someone perform a move which takes longer to set up and is less effective than if you were to just punch someone in the face, okay? It's all about the story, the show, the extravagant, the experience. For me, it's one of the best products out there, but I get so frustrated by it. So frustrated by it, okay?
Well, just quickly, to what you're saying about people that shit on it a bit, and they, why would you watch that? It's fake. It's this. It's that. I had somebody explain it to me. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast before. And the bloke explained this, mid-30s, and he goes, "Look, when people say that to me, I explain to them that it's the male soap opera. Okay, we know it's fake.
Exactly.
We know Bold and the Beautiful's fake, yet we watch it." And when I say we, I mean my mum watches Bold and the Beautiful. I watch wrestling. It is the male soap opera. Okay, now men, what do they want? They want drama. Do they want a love story? Look, maybe a little bit more on the sexual end, and you'll get that in wrestling. A bit of hot and a bit of making out backstage, a bit of revealing clothing.
There is nothing that Vince McMahon loves more than to add a little bit of sex into a PG-rated program. He loves it. He's obsessed. That makes him sound like a creep, which, who knows?
Well,
the question. But I don't know. I didn't say it.
No,
I didn't say
didn't.
it. Although I kind of did. But yeah, like you're totally correct. And also to the point of like, oh, it's fake, it's fake. Well, no, it's not fake. It's predetermined. They're still taking a bump. Like when Mankind, Mick Foley, got thrown off the steel cage by The Undertaker, however many years ago now it was, he did fall 18 feet through the air onto a table. That's not fake. It's not like he's on wires or anything. He took that bump. Okay, he took the bump, he took the fall, and that hurt. Like, you hear Mick Foley talk about it now, and he goes like, that hurts so goddamn much. So, like, yes, it's predetermined. Yes, we know who's going to win. Yes, we know what the finish, or at least the wrestlers and the referee and people backstage know what the finish is going to be. But they're still fighting, and they're still taking bumps, and they're still doing ridiculous things to their body. And I think, for me, after falling out of love with it for a while because, I was growing up and I was like, oh, it's WWE, man. Getting back into it and sort of reconnecting with a bit of my childhood, I became more obsessed and more appreciative and really started to admire the physicality of it all, and how fit these men and women have to be to perform 200 plus dates a year. Because again, like you'll see that they've got the TV tapings for Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, and then NXT. They've got those TV datings, which are, once a week, but they're still doing house shows, okay, which aren't televised basically every single day of the year. They're working so hard, and I really admire that. And that's sort of the hook which got me into. And then all the backstage politics. Oh, if you thought the show was good, if you start reading and watching videos on the stuff that happens behind the scenes, like, my God, Dan, I swear to God, they should just honestly put like a camera on backstage, like behind the scenes, like fly on the wall cam and just let that run. Because that, to me, is so fascinating. It is so amazing how they can come up with the finishes, come up with the storylines, all the backstage politics that happen behind this. Oh, it's amazing. Oh,
it's my favorite bit too. It's by far the thing that I find the most interesting is the work that goes in to the creation of these shows. They produce what? So Raw's 3 hours, SmackDown's 2 hours, and then you got NXT, which is 2 hours. So they're doing, and then they've got Superstars. They've got all these other shows, producing like probably roughly around 10 hours a week of live TV, which is in a. It's one thing to do live TV. It's another to do it in front of, not in a pandemic, roughly 30,000 people on average a week, just in a building. You know what I mean? So it's just fascinating hearing the mechanics of the behind the scenes, the chaos that happens behind there. And as I said, it's my favorite part of wrestling and what I enjoy the most, to the extent that I've dived into the books, like the amount of books out there written by wrestlers, the behind the scenes stories you get, the what led to this that you saw on TV, what actually happened behind the scenes for that.
100%.
It's the best bit.
It really is, and it's to me, the characters the people behind the characters, like the one which everyone's talking about at the moment, The Undertaker, Mark Calloway. He's after Survivor Series this year, he's finally hung up the gloves, and I hope that he stays retired. Now, purely because he's had a couple of sort of false starts of going into retirement, and he's found it hard to sort of walk away from the business, as they say. And seeing him now doing all these press junkets as Mark Calloway and not The Undertaker, breaking kayfabe. For those who don't know, kayfabe is sort of like the golden rule in which wrestlers, of past eras would keep their character intact.
So even in public, they're sort of
public,
So if back in the day, they would travel on separate buses to the person that they're having matches with, because they're meant to hate that person. Why? They can't be seen to be buddy.
Yeah, 100%. And to the point, to the extent where I think there was one story, I think it was with Sid Vicious. I hope I'm getting this story right and putting the right character, the right wrestler with the right story. But essentially, an old lady was walking in the street and needed help walking down the stairs, and he flipped her the bird and then walked off because he was a heel. He was a bad guy. Yep. Please don't fact check me on that, because I've probably gotten the wrong wrestler with the story. But
it's so old, I don't think anyone will fact check you.
Oh, there are some corners of the internet which will.
True.
That was to the level in which they did it, and The Undertaker was the best. The Undertaker's character was that he's an undead supernatural Undertaker who has connections who has special powers with the underworld.
Yeah.
Of course it's not real, but he's kept that character intact, that people, when they see him, they're without being dressed in all black and with the famous hat and the overcoat and all that, they're like, what's going on? You know? But yeah, I love all the behind the scenes stuff. And did you get a chance to see the documentary series they did on the WWE network, The Last Ride with The Undertaker?
Yeah, of course. Almost similar in vein to The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, in that it sort of follows The Undertaker through his final couple of years, while also shining a light on some of the highlights of his career. But yeah, that same sort of multi-part documentary series behind the scenes, it was fantastic. One of the best I've watched.
It's one of the best pieces of documentary film I've seen, period, regardless of whether WWE produced or who's the one that does those ones on Amazon Prime with the sports. They did one for Tottenham, the All-In Tottenham Hotspur. I think it's filmed 76, 77. I can't remember the name of it.
Same ones that did the cricket? Did they do the cricket documentary?
Yes. They did the test, I think they're brilliant as well, and they probably deserve their own separate episodes to discuss. But this documentary series was amazing, partly because it's the first time we got access to Taker. Look at that, I'm calling him Taker. We got access to The Undertaker like that before, but then also in the way in which they did it, it highlighted, like you said, not only the highs and the highlights and the successes which he's had over his 30 odd year career with WWE, but it showed really highlighted the struggle which he has had in coming to a decision to finish up. And I was not expecting to get teary when watching it, but I kind of did.
But look, I'm a self-proclaimed crybaby. I will tear up at the stupidest of things. Last night I watched Christmas with the Cranks, which I've seen at least 10 times, and I still teared up towards the end. I can watch wrestling. So like there's another fantastic documentary on the network which centers around the women's revolution, and in particular Bayley, who's one of the female WWE stars, current SmackDown champion. No, not current SmackDown champion. She was recently. Sasha Banks is at the moment, but it's centered around her, and she was reading a letter that she wrote as a kid to her future self about how she's going to be a wrestler for the WWE. And here I am, a blubbering mess. And my girlfriend comes in, she's like, what? Okay, I kind of used to think that when you watched female wrestlers, it was to, perv on them and stuff. But now I'm seeing that maybe there's something deeper there. And I'm like, well, the industry's changed, Georgia. The industry's changed. It's no longer just about them being like sex objects.
It's not a male-centric dynamic anymore. Come on. My God.
I'm a sensitive new age guy. So,
true. Because George is very much in the right to think it's just, a hypersexualization of women in the WWE, because not 10 years ago, it was that. It was disappointingly the Divas Championship, which was almost the belt was like a pretty butterfly, which you'd see potentially on a very bad tramp stamp tattoo. And they were and they were all not all, but a lot of them, were models or play models who Vince was like, hey, come over here, do a bit of training, build a bit of muscle up, and then you'll be good. And then it's I'm so happy, so very, very happy that they've now been able to change that, reverse the tide, where was it 2 or 3 years ago now, they had a triple threat main event featuring 3 women with the first time in history. And it was arguably because sometimes you get main events which just fizzle out and aren't the big deal which they were hyped up to be. This was an amazing match. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch, who I think is awesome.
Becky Lynch?
Yeah.
She's my favorite. Yeah, she's fantastic.
The man is awesome. Apparently about to have a kid because she's been off television for a while now because she's pregnant.
With Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. But I think if I've done the maths correctly in my head from the data, I'm not her obstetrician, but I think she'd be close, or sort of being that. So, if you happen to catch this, Becky, good luck, all the best, stay safe.
Oh my goodness!
But you see, this is what I was talking about. I can ramble on and
you can ramble. I can
ramble. My God, I'm an improv comic at heart, although probably not as funny as what I think I am. But I have no idea where we were. The women's revolution.
Let me get you back on track, because what I want to actually know, save you. What I actually want to know is in regards to your fandom of wrestling. When did that come about? How did you come to fall into wrestling? Because when I was a kid, it's always been a Foxtel show. Here in Australia, that's our cable. So
it was on Fox 8.
Yeah, Fox 8 still is. And so, but back then, I used to have to go to my grandma's to watch Foxtel because she had Foxtel. We never had it. So my introduction to wrestling was through going to grandma's and being like, what is this thing? And then from there, finding out, oh, wait, they've got videos of this at the video shop, on VHS, as my T-shirt says there very coolly.
I did notice that. It's a good. Show it up to the camera so people watching the YouTube.
Look at that. Hey, look at this. It's from threads.com. You can pick yours up and use the promo code. No, I'm kidding. I don't.
Cheeky plug.
Cheeky plug.
Cheeky. But
Thanks for the sound effects, mate.
welcome. It's not. It's definitely not the last time you'll be hearing some of them in the podcast. Again, I'm taking over, ladies and gentlemen.
His co-host material. It's great.
I brought my own gear. But to your question as to how.
Tell me.
Yeah, very similar. I think I was first introduced to it through watching like channel surfing on Foxtel back in the day when we had Foxtel and on Fox 8. And like for a while, like I'd watch it, but again, like I wasn't too cluey to as like, oh, this is when it's on. I'll watch it every week. It was like, oh, when I channel surf, I'll see it. It's like, oh, John Cena, you know.
Yep.
And like I liked it then because it's like, oh, these big guys and just like, whoa, doing amazing athletic things. And I was a scrawny little kid. I was like, oh my God, I want to be as big as John Cena. Oh my God. And so, yeah, but then like I was saying, like after a couple of years and like we got rid of Foxtel, I can't remember why, but we did. And I just sort of stopped watching it. And like occasionally you'd see memes of like, oh, John Cena, you can't see him. He'd be in a picture with like two other people. It's like, why are these two people hugging air? Because John Cena's not there. You can't see him.
Yeah.
Everyone knows those memes. And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. And so periodically I'd go back, watch a few clips of like matches I remember. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, cool. Whatever. But I probably really sort of got back into it a couple of years ago. I was watching on YouTube, what is it? At the time, What Culture Wrestling with Adam Blompied. I don't know if you've seen those those videos. He's now at Wrestle Talk, or he does these lists. This is English guy who does wrestling videos, and they're the funniest things ever. Like he has the quickest wit, the funniest comments, and like.
So is it commentary on what's happening in the world of wrestling?
Yeah, commentary on what's happening, and then he'll do lists like top 10 finishes used by other, top 10 counter finishes move, or top 10 WrestleMania main events or whatever, and he'll just give his commentary on them, and they are so entertaining. And when I talk to people, I'm like, oh my God, this video is so funny, you have to watch it. They're like, oh yeah, cool, what's it about? This English guy commenting about wrestling. Yeah, cool, bro. You know, like it doesn't make sense. But like, if you have at least a basic understanding of the industry and wrestling in general, then if you watch these videos with Adam Blompied, that's Adam Blampied, I want to say, like you just chuck that into YouTube. Like it's the funniest shit ever. And like I'll regularly just go back and watch old ones where like he just makes. His use of language, like he has to be like an English major or something, because his use of language is incredible.
Yeah.
And he'll use words where I'm like, what? Like I'm an English major. Like I'm training to be an English teacher, you know.
It's the David Letterman effect. It's the using big words that just catch you off guard in a really funny way. Like there's something about hearing a really big and funny word that you don't often hear to use to describe something quite simplistic. And you're like, that's just funny. That strikes me as very funny.
And like the way which he delivers his lines, it's almost like John Mulaney. If you're aware of John Mulaney's work, the American comedian, where it's just like run-on sentence into run-on sentence into run-on sentence. And it's like, how is he able to get all these words out and it still be very funny and the timing is somehow perfect? And I, like, when watching those, I was like, oh, yeah, cool. Like, these are funny. Like, oh, he's talking about Brock Lesnar. He calls him Bork Lesnar, and he's the whitest volcano to ever erupt in the world, you know? And just all these metaphors and similes and just funny adjectives. And then I realized when I was watching more and more of these lists that I was actually learning stuff. About wrestling. And so like I learned about the Montreal screw job through watching these videos. And and I start to learn more about, you know, like the behind the scenes politics and then like the people behind the scenes, how Triple H is actually not called Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Sorry, spoiler alert. But, you know, but I learned how Paul Levesque was behind who's Triple H, essentially behind NXT with William Regal, and then learning about Pat Patterson, who actually, I don't want to bring Pat Patterson away this morning, age 71, so rest in peace, Pat, the first openly gay, or at least I think he's the first openly gay pro wrestler, the inventor of the Royal Rumble, you know, like things like that, I learned from these videos, which kind of got me back into it. And I, sort of like reverse engineering my way back into the content, where instead of starting with the content, with the actual product, I got hooked on the commentary about the product. And I was like, oh, what are they like? What's that event? What's that match they're talking about? I'll go back and watch that and be like, oh, damn, that does be a good match. You know?
I'm the same. And I think what's happened, especially there's certain things that social media is really good for. And one of them is bringing back things from the past in little clip form and sort of either reminding a generation of fans about something or introducing it to a new generation. So like, even for instance, I have a lot of things pop up from like music eras gone by, from pages like that, and it's these live performances, just random live performances from artists that you may not have thought about in, 20 years or 15 years. Yeah. And you watch it and you go, geez, they were good. Let me get on Spotify and just listen to some of their music.
Yeah.
Same thing happens with wrestling a lot. And it's done in this way of, a lot of the time, it's done in a humorous way. So it's people posting these clips of, check out Triple H. This one went around quite a bit. Triple H takes I think it's maybe a Sweet Chin Music or something like that.
The oversell?
The oversell of Triple H going for like at least what feels like 10 minutes, but it's probably a good 3 to 4 minutes, and then finally face plants.
But like the best part of that is that not only is it just outrageous and stupid, and then like he recovers, takes a step, and then face plants, but he's paying homage to Ric Flair, who was the best at the oversell, who would be like, cop like 7 punches to the face, a boot and a suplex or whatever. He'd get up, stumble around for a bit, and then be like, cool, ready to go, and then just kick his leg out from underneath him and fall face first to the canvas.
The best.
It's so good. And like that's what, you go.
It's what I heard Eric Bischoff, who was the founder of WCW, well, Monday Night Nitro, I should say, was the founder of that and the executive producer, created the Monday Night Wars and created the financial uncertainty and almost downfall of WWF back in the late 90s. But Eric Bischoff was talking about the criticism in this day and age. Everybody, like, we live in a post Chris Nolan world where, and I've gone on a few Chris Nolan rants lately, but I always credit Chris Nolan as ushering in the ultra realistic, grounded, gritty versions of things that were previously loud and over the top. So he brought through Batman and reinvented Batman to be a grounded and gritty character again. People now have this urge to have that for all of their characters. You look at Superman, you look at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, all of these things that are larger-than-life characters have gotten that gritty representation in the last 10, 15, whatever years. People watch wrestling now with that same eye, that it all has to be...
That it has to be, like...
super realistic.
Yeah.
They want it to be UFC. They want it to be boxing. They want it to be UFC, but with a bit of story behind it. It's like, wrestling is over the top. The presentation of two grown men or two grown women, as you said, German suplexing each other or grabbing a guitar and smashing it over another guy's head is ridiculous. But it's what we love about it. It's entertainment. It is entertaining.
It really is. Like, if you look at it objectively, wrestling is the dumbest thing in the world. Why would anyone want to subject themselves to being slammed with bloody double basses like Braun Strowman did, or guitars, or be hit with sledgehammers or thumbtacks? Like, who would want to actually do that? Well, WWE wrestlers, because they know that it's the most ridiculous product and people love it.
People love it, and it's been successful for like I don't know, over 50 years. But in terms of like hyper popular, at least 50 years. There's a reason why it stands the test of time. There's a reason why in a world where UFC is as big as it is, which is very much real combat, there is still there is crossover. There is people from UFC going to WWE. It's the entertainment side. It is, and it's also, here's what I always say to people. I'm like, you know what's great about wrestling? Is I get my favorite wrestlers, my favorite athletes, I get them week in, week out, unless there's an injury on the odd occasion. Week in, week out, they're getting good stories. They're going to get good spots. You know what? It's predetermined, so I don't have to worry about them being shit for 10 years and them losing like our Brisbane Lions did for so long. They're going to get a chance. And that's the best bit is there's no off season. This goes year round. This is a sport you can follow year round, and the best part is it's like watching a friggin' movie at the same time. Now, wrestling can be shit. It can go through periods where you're like, why do I tune into this for 3 hours? Of course, but there's so much more positive than there is negative.
What I find interesting, and it's funny how you say like, yes, it can be shit. And I say, yes, it can be shit when it's over-scripted. And I mean this particularly with commentary, particularly with promos. It seems that Vince McMahon, although he created this mega juggernaut of a business and an industry, he seems to have. He's a bit too much of a control freak, and I get it. It's his baby, but there are times where things are scripted so much that it just becomes in your face. Like the example which I always use because I find it so infuriating was when Shane McMahon returned to the company after 7 years of not being involved. He returned to the company and then he was instantly put in with a program with The Undertaker, which again, storyline wise, didn't make any sense whatsoever. No. But during the match, which was a great match, Shane, The Undertaker is laid out on the commentary table because, of course, he is, and then Shane's on top of the cage because, of course, it was a steel cage match. He's on top of the cage, and he jumps off, and The Undertaker miraculously gets out of the way. So Shane just slams into the table. The table crumples, buckles, everything. Boom, bam. Crowd goes nuts, like whoa! And then you see Michael Cole, who's the commentator, who I think, for the most part, does a great job, okay? And, he's an actual journalist, an actual commentator, and, he's been put on commentary with WWE, and I think he's now head or vice head of talent relations. I'm not sure what other role he has inside.
Like that, yeah.
Something like that behind the scenes. But the commentary which he screams out is like, Shane, don't do this. Oh, my God, for the love of mankind, which is clearly a reference to what I said before, where Mick Foley, Mankind, was thrown off the cat.
Yeah.
But you would think, oh, yeah, that's a good bit of commentary. But then the camera pans out and you see a replay of it and you just see Michael Cole staring at a script, reading, for the love of mankind. And I'm like, oh, my God. Can you just give the man the ability just to commentate on the action and what's happening without it being so hyper scripted and so tightly scripted? And there was, I can't remember what show it was on, but I think it was an episode of Raw, I want to say about 5 years ago. Could be wrong, but the story is true. I've just gotten the dates wrong, where essentially you heard on commentary Michael Cole in his ear going back to the gorilla position, which is where the control room essentially for where Vince McMahon sits and Triple H sit, and they just manage the show as they go. And essentially Michael Cole was like, do I have to say this? And then you just heard, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, just Vince McMahon barking.
Really?
Oh, just being like, you damn well shut up. You're going to read what I've put, you're going to say what I've given you, And
do you know what it was? Do you remember or not? It was just something.
I can't remember. You'll easily be able to find it because it went live to air.
Yeah.
It's easy. 5 minutes, you could probably find it on YouTube. Yeah. And I can't remember what it was, but I think it was something. I think it had something to do with some product placement or something they were putting in there. It was either product placement or what they were going to call a move. because I think a wrestler had just come over from a different promotion, and in their promotion they used a different name for I can't remember, to be totally honest. I can't remember what exactly it was, but it was just so blatant. It's like, come on, man. Like, some of the best stuff which they do in WWE, where, like, yeah, it's somewhat scripted. There's a story arc, but the wrestlers are allowed to like
ad-lib.
give it their own zhuzh. And like we saw, like there were reports coming out of Survivor Series this year that some superstars were reprimanded because their allotted time on the show to give promos went over. They went long. And like, I can get that, but the risk there is that it becomes such a watered down product, and it becomes too PG. But like, and anyone who I've spoken to, and like, this is not groundbreaking opinions or thought, but some of the best bits of WWE content in the past 15 years have been CM Punk's pipe bomb, or anything CM Punk did through the summer of Punk. So what was that, 2011? I want to say 2012, maybe. Yeah. Where he just called it, like he blurred the lines between the reality of what's going on at WWE and the scripted product, which was amazing. And even
just to give insight on that, just so if people are unaware, I guess, so there was a story at the time, and there was a character, CM Punk, who was very much, it was known that he was difficult. So like, he would push back against management, and there was always these little niggling things. He sort of didn't really look like a typical WWE superstar that Vince McMahon likes them to look like.
He didn't look like the big body, glistening biceps, and
he was covered in tats.
So like, he was different. He was like your pin-up independent circuit wrestler, and he was like, you have to say, he was very, very good at what he did. But he again, like you were saying, was rebelling against the booking which he was given, the storylines he was given, the place on the card he was given, because again, like, he wasn't like your John Cena's or your Triple H's who had biceps on biceps and triceps on triceps, and he just like fought back against it. And the only reason why that worked, well, not the only reason, but like a major factor as to why that worked, is because it's what the fans wanted. The fans wanted Punk to be champion. The fans wanted Punk to be, in the number one spots, in the main events of their pay-per-views. And so it just didn't make sense. And somehow they managed to make it work, this storyline, where it became such a big thing, despite WWE, despite the creative Triple H, Vince McMahon, and everyone in creative, or I say everyone seemingly in creative, not wanting that to be a thing. And we've seen it a couple of times now where Daniel Bryan, he was never meant to be champion. Never meant to be champion. Vince McMahon legitimately thought, from all reports, again, I don't know what really goes on inside WWE because I don't think anyone does, but from all reports, he seemed him, he was not main event material. But again, rose to the top because the fans wanted it. Kofi Kingston, same thing. He was considered a B+ player.
Becky Lynch, you could make the argument Becky Lynch as well.
Exactly. And
it's funny because WWE always try and manufacture these new. They're always looking for the next Stone Cold. They're always looking for the next The Rock, the next John Cena. The thing with that is that they don't seem to realize, they still do not seem to realize, is that all of those stars are stars that the fans pushed. So like, The Rock was not getting a push until he started getting a reaction from the crowd where they went, oh, hang on a sec, there's something here. Roman Reigns was never getting that reaction. He was never getting it. They forced it. Now, talk to me about Roman Reigns 2020, and he's great. But
because he's a heel. They needed to stop pushing him as the babyface. So wrestling lingo, babyface equals good guy, heel equals bad guy. But they kept pushing him and shoving him down the throats of audiences, being like, this is the guy you need to cheer for, when it was so clear that everyone thought he was a better heel. They didn't like him. When The Rock, the biggest name in the industry, the biggest name in entertainment, can't get him over, you know there's a problem. You need to cut your losses, turn him heel, and make him money that way. Right now, with him partnered up with Paul Heyman, who I think he is the god.
He'd be your man. With with microphone skills like he has, he'd be your man.
Mate, honestly, like for a period of time, my text tone was Brock Lesnar. Like Little Paulie Heyman is the greatest talker in WWE. He's not a wrestler per se, but he wasn't manager. What was it? The advocate. I am the advocate for Brock Lesnar.
That's not bad. That's not a bad Heyman you did there.
It's not bad.
He's happy with it.
I'll give myself 2 pats on the back. There we go. But him partnered up with Roman Reigns. It's a match made in heaven because Roman, he's not the greatest talker on the microphone. We saw that during his feud with John Cena, where John Cena essentially called him out, being like, this is a promo, kid. You've got to learn how to do it if you want to rise to the top.
Yeah.
Which, again, ad-lib. Amazing.
Cena doesn't get given a script. Cena's got free reign to do whatever he wants to do. And look at him. He's one of the biggest stars in the company ever. So do the 100%. Math.
Exactly. These wrestlers, these people, they're creative. They're very good at what they do. And just give them the chance to do what they do best. Yep. You know, like you wouldn't have put them on TV if they weren't good talkers. So why don't you let them talk?
It seems simple, doesn't it? Seems very simple.
Seems really simple.
I've got a great question. I've actually got a fantastic question, and one that's going to garner us a lot of heat, no matter what we say here. This is one that doesn't please anyone. You ready?
Let me take some more. I've got to prepare for this, Dan.
All right, you sip while I'll explain. So what I want to do is, this might become a bit of a thing I do with people that do come on and talk a bit of wrestling, because what I want to do is I want to talk and I say so this is Alex's personal Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Mount Rushmore. Jeez.
What a challenge. It's near impossible, but what I want to stress.
Impossible. Like,
I want to stress, though, that this is your Mount Rushmore. So in your generation of watching wrestling and including the time you've gone back and educated yourself on old stuff, that's fine too. But it's not, I don't want to hear not Rocky Marciano, bloody Bruno Sammartino. Rocky Marciano, boxing world heavyweight champion, Bruno Sammartino.
What's going on, Adrian?
It's all the same shit.
Okay. So here's my dilemma.
How many? Is there 5 heads on the Mount Rushmore?
I thought it was 4.
Is it 4? Okay. I'll double check.
Yeah, you double check whilst I'll explain what my thinking process is, because there are wrestlers who I love to bits.
Yeah, there's 4. There's 4.
But there are 4. But like there are wrestlers who I love to bits, but are they the greatest?
I'm going to write them down while you say them. So when you say them, I'll write them down for you.
Okay, so Stone Cold has to be there.
Yep.
He's the toughest.
No arguments.
Purely for his ability on the mic, it has to be The Rock.
I thought you were going to say Paul Heyman.
Well, because again, Paul Heyman, he's not a wrestler. So in my mind, I can't put him on there.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't put him on there. So what we've got, Stone Cold, The Rock. So very controversial.
Yeah, you've gone easy, I think, but that's fine.
But oh man, this is where it gets tough, because I want to put The Undertaker there, but I haven't experienced enough of his material, of his work, to be able to say, yeah, a lot of the aura and mystique and the legend behind The Undertaker is that it's the legend of The Undertaker. And like I've sort of gone back and watched a lot of The Rock and Stone Cold, and so like I feel like I am in a position to say they're awesome.
Well, it's sort of like Ric Flair. Like people say Ric Flair's best work was in the NWA. But to your point, like you and I haven't seen, like Ric Flair to me is in Evolution. Ric Flair to me is wrestling Shelton Benjamin for the Intercontinental Champion. Like, great at what he does. And there's some WCW stuff, but that's the Ric Flair I knew. Whereas people say Ric's best stuff was in the NWA in the 80s.
100%. Yeah, and then even when he was touring around the country, going into independent promotions and defending the title, where like he'd wrestle with them, their hometown star would get the best of him, and then he'd like pull out the knuckle dusters and then like knock him down and then run away with the title.
Yeah,
and brilliant heel.
I took you off topic. You're Mount
no.
Rushmore.
But I'm still thinking.
So
Shawn
we've got
Michaels,
The Rock, Stone Cold,
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, okay, big, huge.
Well,
a man that took 5 years off for issues.
Yeah, well-documented issues, and heavily involved in the Montreal screw job where he screwed Bret Hart out of the title at Survivor Series. I get that, but
I don't have an issue.
The man is the genius. Now, disregarding all the bullshit politics which he was a part of it with the clique and all of that in his first run with the company, but even looking at his second run, the matches with The Undertaker, the end of the year triple threat Hell in a Cell match where he was a special guest referee, even he retired Ric Flair, like, and then even in my mind, the greatest, like the most iconic moment, maybe not the most iconic, but the one which sticks out to me was when he sweet chin music Shelton Benjamin as he's flying across the ring. He catches him in mid-air. Yeah, it is one of the crispest sweet chin music, crispest super kicks to the face I have ever seen.
I don't know if you've seen it or not, but Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21.
Oh, God, there's Kurt as well.
Yeah, I know, there is Kurt.
Kurt Angle, like, sidetrack, Kurt Angle's best bit was when he impersonated Shawn Michaels, like, I'm just a sexy Kurt. I'll make your ankle hurt. Oh, man, this is impossible.
It is. It's the great impossible task, but... Okay,
so who have I got? So Stone Cold...
The Rock, Shawn Michaels.
You
got one more spot.
God damn it. I'm going to...
I love that it doesn't matter who you say to round this out. This is going to be scrutinized. Yeah.
I'm going to be cancelled. Yeah. Regardless.
Wrestling fandom is going to cancel you for sure.
Yeah, I'm cancelled. See you later, 2020. Okay, so...
Do you want me to throw some names out? I'm going to try and trigger because... I want to give you the best opportunity possible, and I threw Kurt out, and you were like, "Oh God, there's Kurt as well." Yeah. All right, so there's some names you haven't considered. So you've got Kurt, you've got Hulk Hogan, you've got you've got
again, like I haven't experienced him, and then also there's so much baggage attached to him. Like I can't. And like, don't get me wrong, when Real American hits, the pop which I give is huge because it's awesome. But again, his best work was before me. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand that. What about Triple H? Triple H getting a look in?
See, I respect his work, but I don't know. He just wasn't my cup of tea. Like, he's great. Again, he's great, and I love him. But like, if I was putting him in that top echelon, like I can't. Yeah.
Chris Jericho.
You see, I respect the hell out of Chris Jericho because he's been able to reinvent himself and he's been successful in New Japan, WWE, now with AEW. Everywhere he's been successful. But I don't know.
What about? Hang on, I'm getting through some.
Like there's one who I have a real connection with.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have to go with him.
Val Venus.
Yeah, Val Venus. No, Tensor. No, it's Edge.
I was thinking Edge.
Because based purely.
The rated R superstar.
When he returned at the Royal Rumble earlier this year, it feels like 7 years ago. Earlier this year, I've never been more emotional watching WWE in my life. And maybe that's because of the circumstances in which he retired, because of the neck injuries which he had, and how he had to force an early retirement. I had such an guttural reaction when watching it. Like, I screamed. I was like, "Oh my God, it's Edge!" And I have such a connection with him. And
still has one of the best theme songs ever.
oh, he's saying, "Understand, I see clearly, everything's come to light." I love that song.
Yeah, nailed it. Woo! He's got some pipes.
A pat on the back. I'll give myself 2 double pats on the back.
Who goes when impersonating Edge's entrance straight into the lyrics rather than "You think you know me"? That's all I give every time.
I know, but like that song makes me feel things I probably shouldn't. But
wow.
Be cool. That's a hot take. That's going to be your tagline.
It's a peculiar take.
Well, it's a true take. But again, like, I don't know whether I can put him.
Oh, so you're not going fourth. You're not going fourth for.
He's there as a placeholder. I just want to go through a couple more in my mind before I get there.
Yep.
I feel like I'm leaving people out, which is.
Are you thinking like? Let me see.
Because we can go John Cena, but like, he's got like, what is it, the 5 moves of death, where it's like a couple of shoulder tackles, throw him up for a power bomb, then.
The bloke carried the company on his shoulders for 10 years solo.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. 5 knuckle shuffle, attitude adjustment. But I think, and there was Doctor of Thugonomics as well.
You got to remember Thugonomics. We need a decision here, mate. This is pressing.
Oh, God damn it.
This is the best part about this. I spring it on you.
Man, I hate this so much. I hate you. You're never coming on my podcast again. How dare you? I'm going to have to go Edge purely based off that reaction and the pop which I gave when he returned. It has to be Edge. But I feel so uncomfortable leaving so many people out. I haven't even talked about Randy Orton. My God, the RKO out of nowhere. Like, my God.
You can't put Randy on a Mount Rushmore, though. The reality is he's too hot and cold. He's had good moments and bad.
But the thing, he's still there.
Yeah, he's still there.
He's endured.
That's the best part about this game I haven't even
talked about CM Punk. I haven't even put him in the conversation. Like, yes, he had a relatively short and small career compared, but the impact he had on the industry, like, my God.
Mate, you could sit here for hours doing this.
You could sit here for hours. My God, man.
You didn't even talk about Rikishi. I mean, he obviously... I think
Razor Ramon. Oh my God. Batista,
yeah.
Batista.
Booker T. Didn't talk Booker T.
Can you dig it, sucker?
There's the music. Just to
give him a spinneroonie. Oh my God.
So your Mount Rushmore reads as Stone Cold, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, and Edge. It's a very... The first two, yeah, okay, they're going to be on a lot of people's. Last two...
You see, I'm very comfortable with the first 3. I'm very comfortable with the first 3. But am I able to change Edge?
To who? You've got one change you can make here. Give it to me.
It would be to Taker. I think it would have to be to The Undertaker.
I would put Taker.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do that. Yeah, and then we'll have a cheeky 80th minute substitution with like Edge as like reserve. He's like the dark match, which we don't get to see.
Just to hear his music. That's all we need.
Man, his music is the best.
All right, well, I think that Mount Rushmore reads a little more evenly now. Stone Cold, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker. I think that's pretty good.
What would you change out of that? Like, who would? Because like you don't seem sold on Shawn. So who would you put instead?
Not to be that guy, but I kind of think I have to put Vince McMahon on my Mount Rushmore.
But okay, so here's the thing. Yes, he's wrestled a couple of times, but he's not a wrestler.
But none of these people exist without him.
Yeah, but you said the Mount Rushmore of wrestlers, not the Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling or WWE.
Well, professional wrestling, and he's a character. He's a character.
You said the Mount Rushmore of WWE.
Don't be upset that I'm more creative.
No, but then that's different. Because then people like Paul Heyman would come into play.
No, he wouldn't.
Yes, he would. Are you kidding me?
Literally, the reason why Vince is on there is because he created all of them. There's not one on there that you haven't even talked about putting it.
He didn't create Paul Heyman. Yeah, Paul Heyman worked for him as a photographer and as a journalist growing up, but he was the promotion. He headed up ECW. He was the one that also contributed to the Monday Night Wars. He also
none of these companies are still around.
Yeah, because that was so good that Vince had to buy them out.
No! This is how a Mount Rushmore conversation should go. No, fuck you. No.
Fuck me. Fuck you.
I love that we've done a Mount Rushmore. That's the best. I love doing that. That's going to be my go-to if anyone ever talks wrestling on here. And I'm going to, and I will refer to this every single time. Wow, Alex in episode, by the way, this is episode 50. So well done on being on the...
Thank you.
Yep.
Toss in the cap.
On episode 50 of the Pop Culture Experience, Alex dived into his Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Yeah, which is, I think, a good way to end this, mate. Look at that. We came in here not knowing what we'd talk about, and then we talked about wrestling for, I don't know, about an hour.
Mate, I even had gear. I had gear set up. I had a quiz I was going to give you. But you know what? Like I had a full quiz. Like I had the, the dings and I had the full setup going. I was ready.
What was your quiz? What was your quiz?
Well, it was just to test how good your finishing move knowledge was.
Okay, give it to me. Give it to me.
Okay, so some of them, most of them are pretty easy. So I'd be surprised if you didn't get them. But first one. Yeah. Oh.
Now I'm confident.
Yeah, actually, looking at them, yeah, you definitely will get them all.
Well. God, go on.
So the FU.
Well, it's a trick question because it was previously done by John Cena, but he since has adapted to the attitude adjustment. We're living in a PG era. Yeah.
Very good. The punt.
The punt is a Randy Orton classic. When they need to write somebody off TV, Randy Orton will give them a punt.
That's so true. And fun fact, I don't think anyone is kicked out of it.
Well,
I think it's so overly protected, which is so rare considering that most finishes these days you need to hit 17 times and then drop a tank on them to finish a match, you know
what? I reckon you're probably right with that. And that is a great fun fact because there's very few moves that are protected. Good. I like that.
Pretty much. Yeah. Actually, also another fun fact. What's Santino Marella's finisher? The Cobra.
The Cobra, yeah.
Cobra. Been kicked out of once.
Really?
Once.
By who, do you know?
I think it was Sheamus. There was one time where, was it Sheamus or was it Daniel Bryan? No, there was one. I can't remember which one it was, but there have been two times. One which was kicked out of, but we're not counting that because he didn't have the full sock on, the snake sock.
If you don't have the snake on, it's not going to work
the
same.
It's like trying to do Mr. Socko without Mr. Socko on. It doesn't matter. But there was one time, but even then, it was so protected that he hit it, and then he took him 7 years to make the cover.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it hasn't.
It's never been kicked out of. Okay.
It's never been kicked out. Yeah. Okay. Question 3. The WMD.
Oh.
Have I got him? Oh, I think I've got him. Got a bed here. The WMD.
WMD. Far
Weapon
out.
Mass destruction.
I don't know.
He doesn't know? You're giving up? You're giving up?
Yeah.
Big Show.
Oh, the punch.
Got him.
He's
Got him.
His
Got him.
knockout punch.
I got him.
It's maybe the worst move in professional wrestling, isn't
Honestly,
it?
Makes no sense because I'm pretty sure, and people of the internet can fact check this, it's a closed fist punch, which you're not allowed to do in professional wrestling.
Yep, but he does it. And I will stand by that. I didn't need to know that because it's a shit move and he doesn't wrestle anymore and stuff that move. Big Show is a choke slam. Nah, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. You bloody got me. You got me.
I got him. I honestly didn't think I'd get you with that one, but I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, next one, Kinshasa.
Shinsuke.
Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah.
Very nice. And then you'll know this because she's your favorite, but the disarm her.
Yes, of course, Becky.
Becky. He's done it.
Bloody Big Show. And you know what? It shits me every time he turns up on TV because I go, Big Show's back. And he just cost me a freaking quiz on my own show. Oh.
All right. Look at that. He's come out a winner. Get around him, ladies and gentlemen. Get around him, ladies and gentlemen.
Last question for you. We're going off air with this one. Ready?
Thank you. I'm taking control of the show.
We're going off air with this. All right. I want your last word. Favorite current wrestler. Give it to me. Who do you tune in weekly to watch at the moment?
Keith Lee.
Ooh, I like that.
Keith Lee is the biggest thing, and one match I have to see, and it has to be a main event. Probably a WrestleMania. They probably won't give it for a couple of years, but it has to happen. Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, we all want to see it. They've already set the little stage for it with the Royal Rumble earlier this year.
The Royal Rumble, because again, Brock doesn't bump for anyone.
No.
Yet he bumped twice for Keith Lee.
Yeah.
Let's put that into context. This is Brock Lesnar, who will turn up for an event, will turn up for a show, get paid $500,000 just for one show, then disappear for 6 months because he's Brock Lesnar. He does what he wants. He eats volcanoes and spits out meteors. I made myself laugh on that one, but he really played into it. He had the whole ooh, big boy, and turned to Paul Heyman, was like, get a look at the size of this fella, and then bumped him twice. That for me, Keith Lee is the most exciting. No man that size should be able to do that. Both him and Brock. Heck, there was the Brock versus Kurt Angle back in 2004, I want to say, where he did the moonsault or whatever it was.
Yeah, and the botched moonsault.
Botched moonsault nearly broke his neck in twain, but Keith Lee does similar things. He flips off the top ropes, and I'm like,
and he's a massive man.
Do that right now. Pause the podcast, go Google a picture of Keith Lee and go Google a picture of Brock Lesnar, and then imagine them doing a backwards flip over the top of off the top rope and then landing on someone. Imagine that. And then if you don't have an aneurysm trying to imagine that and figure that out, then you're clearly not looking at the right picture.
But I do agree. Go on YouTube highlights of Keith Lee. It's amazing what that guy can do in a ring.
He's in his glory, basking it.
Yeah, it's in his song, "Bask in His Glory." It's a good call. I like that. Myself is the Fiend. Yeah. I love the Fiend.
Okay, so here's.
Oh no!
No, it's great. The character is great, but WWE have crippled him. When he was in his program with Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins curb stomped him 17 times, smacked him with a chair 15 times, and it still didn't put him down. I'm sorry. You've totally lost me there. I get he's meant to be a fiend, supernatural creature and all that stuff, but come on. It's got to be based in reality, because then after then, he looks weak when he loses a match. It's you lost only because of a powerbomb? Or an RKO. What happened to being curb stomped 75 times and still getting up and no-selling it like it was nothing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. The early booking for him where he did have those moments of sort of non-human abilities, I think they've course corrected. I remember when he first got the title put on him and everyone was like, well, okay, now he's going to lose the title and you're going to ruin the character. So what's going to happen?
100%, yeah.
I kind of think we've ridden it out to this point now where he's almost getting to that Undertaker area where the Undertaker didn't need a title, one, but the Undertaker was also a 7-time champion, which means he lost 7 times to lose his title, and it didn't hurt the overall aura of the Undertaker. So I was the same, but as time's gone on, I'm like, nah, they were right to put the title on him early and then take it off him and then get us out of that idea of this guy isn't allowed to lose because, well, you know, he's got to lose at some point, and it makes the character more interesting when they can have something to chase. So I was the same, but yeah.
I'm with you there. Like they just need to make sure they don't fuck up the booking now, because like with Bray, like they've messed him up a couple of times.
Yeah.
So
like, big time.
Like he's too good to be.
He's great. Up. He's a great storyteller.
Too good, like great storyteller, and then probably an even better wrestler himself.
Yeah.
So like
I think what I love about Bray now is, yes, they stuffed him up a bit in the past, but he was always really a great character, but the booking was never there. What's really good now is we sit here and we have a modern day Mick Foley cross Undertaker where Bray Wyatt, the man, has numerous characters he can play with. So he can, you know, when he's done those cinematic matches earlier this year, you saw the old cult leader. Yeah. So I think that's cool too. I think there's, like Mick Foley had Mankind, Dude Love, all those characters. You've now got Bray Wyatt with the same. So
yeah, that's true. That is very true. So hopefully WWE can, I don't know, not pull a WWE on them.
They'll be right. They'll be right. They always come through. Alex, bloody great chat about wrestling. It's so nice just to talk wrestling for an hour. It's been lovely.
Talk a bit of old-fashioned wrestling.
Yeah.
It's so good. Someone who actually also just gets it. It's not like, oh, yeah, cool.
Nah.
Not like any of the dates where I've been, I'll be like, I also, you know, guilty pleasure, I like wrestling. And instantly they're like, oh, sorry, I think I've left the oven on.
No, nothing like that at all, mate. Hopefully you don't have too many more of those in your future.
If you're a lady who likes wrestling, please contact
Oh God, it's turned into a date advertisement. My God, who would have thought a wrestling episode could turn into a date advertisement for the guest? Strange things happen on the Pop Culture Experience, especially on episode 50. It's fitting that this is how this ends. Alex, where can people follow you and your podcast, mate? Give us a plug before, and where can the girls, of course, follow that?
Of course, okay. For personal inquiries, follow my personal Instagram handle, which is at @HatziKostas, which is AHATZIKOSTAS, and then the podcast. The My Next Guest is not podcast at _My Next Guest podcast.
Love it. Hit it up, guys. Give it a listen. I'll be appearing on there soon, hopefully. And Alex, thanks for the chat, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Anytime. Thanks for having me, mate.